It started with a phone call that lasted only 9 seconds. At 2:17 a.m. on a rainy Thursday in October, emergency dispatch received a call from a young woman. There was no screaming, no clear words, just heavy breathing, and then silence. The call traced back to a small apartment complex on the edge of town, a place most people wouldn't look at twice. By the time police arrived, everything was already over. The apartment belonged to 26-year-old Elena Voss. She had moved into apartment 3B just 6 months earlier. Friends described her as quiet, observant, and deeply routine-driven. She worked remotely as a graphic designer, rarely went out, and kept mostly to herself. But there was one detail that stood out. Every night at exactly 9:30 p.m., Elena would make a phone call. No one knew to whom. Neighbors didn't think much of it at first. The walls were thin and occasional voices carried through the hallway. But over time, something felt off. One neighbor later told police that Elena never sounded relaxed during those calls. Her voice was always low, careful, like she was choosing every word with precision. And sometimes it sounded like she was afraid of being overheard. 3 days before the 911 call, Elena stopped leaving her apartment entirely. Her food deliveries went untouched. Her lights stayed on all night. And one resident claimed they heard something unusual coming from her unit. Not shouting, not music. Just the sound of furniture slowly being dragged across the floor. When officers entered apartment 3B, they immediately noticed something strange. The layout didn't match the building plans. The living room furniture had been rearranged in a way that blocked direct access to the hallway. A heavy bookshelf had been pushed against the wall, but not to store books. Behind it, they found something that shouldn't have been there. A door? The building manager insisted there was no second door in that unit. According to the original blueprints, apartment 3B shared only one entrance. But the door was real, old, scratched, and locked from the inside. Inside the apartment, there were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no struggle. But Elena was gone. Her phone was found on the kitchen floor, screen cracked, still connected to the emergency call log. Her laptop was open on the table, and on the screen, a single document, one sentence. "I think he finally knows I'm here." Police focused their attention on the hidden door. It took nearly an hour to force it open. On the other side was a narrow passageway, barely wide enough for a person to walk through. It wasn't part of any official building structure. The walls were unfinished. The air smelled damp and stale. The passage led to a small windowless room. Inside, investigators found something deeply unsettling. A chair, a camera mounted on a tripod, and dozens of photographs pinned to the walls. Every single one was of Elena. Some photos showed her entering the building. Others captured her inside her apartment, sleeping, working, even sitting on the phone. Which meant one thing. Someone had been watching her for a long time. But the most disturbing detail wasn't the photos. It was the timestamps. The pictures had been taken over a span of 6 months, starting just days after Elena moved in. Whoever was behind this had been there the entire time, hidden, patient, and incredibly careful. Forensic teams searched the hidden room for DNA. They found traces, but nothing that matched anyone in the system. No fingerprints on the camera, no footprints on the dusty floor. It was as if the person who built that space knew exactly how to disappear. Then came the final piece of the puzzle. Remember the nightly phone calls Elena made at 9:30 p.m.? Investigators recovered call records. Every single call went to the same number, but the number wasn't registered to anyone. It was a prepaid phone, and it had only ever received calls from Elena. When police finally tracked the signal history of that phone, they discovered something chilling. The phone had never left the building, not once, which meant whoever Elena was calling every night was already there. The case quickly took a darker turn. Investigators began to consider the possibility that Elena had known someone was watching her, that the calls weren't casual conversations, but controlled communication, maybe even negotiation. But if that was true, why didn't she leave? The answer may lie in the final moments before her disappearance. Audio technicians enhanced the 911 call. At first, all they could hear was breathing, but beneath the static, there was something else. A second voice, whispering. The words were